Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We're joined today to hear Susan Vespoli read from her recently published book, Therefore Illuminated. So I'm just going to introduce Susan really quickly, and then we're going to hear from her. Susan's going to read from her book for 20 to 30 minutes, and then she's going to give us a quick prompted writing session, and then we're going to open the floor up to Q&A so we can all ask whatever questions arise from the reading that we're about to hear. So Susan Vespoli learned early on that writing is a tool to stay sane, not to mention healthy. For years, she owned and ran a Montessori school where she taught young kids, but after a midlife wake-up call, she sold everything, moved to a cabin in the forest, and set off to earn her MFA in poetry and nonfiction
So I'm on.
from Antioch University in Los Angeles.
Then
Um, since 2010, she's taught adults creative writing summer courses online through Prescott College, English classes in person at Maricopa community colleges, and has led wild writing circles. Her poems and essays have been published or are forthcoming in spots such as Rattle, One Art, a Journal of Poetry, Nasty Women Poets, an unapologetic anthology of subversive verse, Gyroscope Review, Anti-Heroin Chic, Nailed Magazine, Emrys Journal, Write Bloody, and New Verse News. She's received 3 Pushcart Prize nominations for her poetry and is the author of Blame It on the Serpent, Cactus as Bad Boy, One of Them Was Mine, and Therefore Illuminated, and 2 chapbooks by Dancing Girl Press. Since Susan is a devout believer in the power of writing to heal, transform, illuminate, she practices what she preaches with daily morning pages a la the Julia Cameron Artist Way technique and attends as many classes and workshops in writing as she can. She was trained as a wild writing teacher by Lori Wagner of 27 Powers. She lives in Phoenix, Arizona, with her 3 poetic rescue dogs, Frida, Sasha, and Lulu. Susan, thank you so much for being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Sean. And thank you, everyone. I see your faces or names. It's good to see you. Thank you for your support. I'm not nervous. Anyway, so here we go. So I'm reading today from my book, Therefore Illuminated. And as I was talking to Sean about, this is kind of this is the follow-up to the book that I wrote, Like an Insane Woman, the year after my son was killed. So basically this was the year of, and then this is the book of what happened. So I really needed for my own personal healing to get it out, to keep writing and then to put it together in a collection so I could look at it and say, oh, that's what happened. And now I can go on. So that's what this is about. So this book contains, and Therefore Illuminated kind of references Leonard Cohen about there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in, So I've we've all experienced giant cracks, but this is what this is about. And also there's another quote in the beginning of this book, have a good life anyway, which is what I heard at a 12-step meeting at one point, early on. And I didn't realize, I just keep referring back to that. No matter what happens, we have a good life anyway. So here we go. So this is kind of in order. I will read about the lawsuit, and then I'll read about some things that's brought me healing. There've been a lot of positive things. And then the end will be about, the final resolution of the lawsuit. So here we go. The first one. What I wanted and what I got. I wanted my son back. I wanted the cop who shot him to be held accountable. I wanted my son to be standing here wearing his Pure Heart t-shirt, handing out food boxes. I wanted him to ask for more light clothes for Christmas, more white socks, because he believed light colors would help him stay clean. I wanted another cross for him to carry, mosaiced in fractured glass, another coffee date at Starbucks, another tour of his apartment, furnished with found lamps and a found statue of a bear holding a fish that said, welcome. I wanted his voice saying, I love you, Mom. His fingers texting me photos of geese and cats and quail eggs laid in a ceramic swan. What I got was a wrongful death lawsuit, a deposition where I was shamed and blamed by an eye-rolling, smirking bitch of a City of Phoenix lawyer who mocked my 12-step beliefs, asking sarcastically, did it help? I got my Facebook account invaded by the cops' legal team. I got 2 of my poetry books used as evidence against my son. I got a gag order. No more speaking about or publishing poems about the loss or the case. 2 canceled poetry readings. I got a t-shirt that says, make art in the face of fuck. I got the face of fuck. I got a pen and more notebooks because the cops, lawyers, confiscated my journals. And I write anyway, and I write anyway, and I still believe good will prevail. Still believe the spirit of Adam stands among us, that his words a couple weeks before his murder, I think God has another plan for my life, will ring and crack the wrecking ball of the city of Phoenix and its cops' denial, and out of that shatter will glow my son's smile, his essence, his light. Okay. So the next one is mediation day. Yeah, so it's like as soon as something would happen, I'd have to go home and just write it. So this is like fresh out of the, okay, mediation day. This is, conversations with me and the lawyer. Me, know what I want? Lawyers paid and cop jailed. My lawyer, it's a wrongful death suit. It's all about the money. Someone, money can hold them accountable. The more money, the more pain to spark change. My lawyer, they're never going to change. It's all about the money. The life of a 39-year-old unmarried man with no children is worth $750,000 to $1 million, split 4 ways minus expenses. City of Phoenix's law office is a palace on the 27th floor of a high-rise, corner of, I swear, Adams Street. Mediator. Because of your son's addiction, his life is worth much less. You must feel guilty as parents that you didn't do more to help him. They know all about you and more. Come on, he wasn't a street minister, maybe suicidal. That's all the money they came with. Why didn't you commit him? You must feel guilty as parents. His life is worth much less. They had to go back to ask for more money twice. This is their best and final. If you don't accept it, it will go to trial. My lawyer, $200,000 equals their legal fees if we go to trial. Anything over that means they are admitting fault. Me, I want them to say they're sorry. Our lawyers, never going to happen. It's all about the money. My ex-husband dissolves. Cop gets away with executing our son. Our lawyers to each other. I find it insulting. His life is deemed of less value because of his struggles. What if this was one of our kids? Our lawyers to us. If you go to trial, you could end up with 0. Draws a 0 on a yellow pad. Me, I don't want his name sullied anymore. Mediator. City Council would need to approve the settlement agreement. February 13th, 1 day after what would have been Adam's 41st birthday. My lawyer, phone call next day. You did the right thing. You'll get a statement of legal fees and expenses within 60 days. It's all about the money. Take care. Not that I'm retaining fury. Okay. Next one. Random list of things I've lost. Keys, games of Scrabble, earrings, rings, the ability to eat onions, garlic, beans, my night vision, courage to drive on the freeway, for now, beloved dogs, Ramona, Chet, Jack, Sylvia, and James, an unhappy marriage, happily ever after delusions, 2 out of 3 adult kids to drugs, one still struggling and the other murdered by police. Trust in law enforcement officers, in our political system. 2 grandsons to the East Coast, their father, my eldest, to another location 4 hours away on the map of AZ. A long-term love affair, my naivety, my desire to people please, ability to keep my mouth shut. Okay. Next one. How to survive your family's catastrophes. A list poem. Okay. Meditate. Breathe. Fly around the room of your mind and then settle. Remain calm. Freak out later. Close eyes, then open them. Journal. Craft piss into poems. Read 1,000 poetry newsletters and books. Take a zillion writing classes. Deadlines help you kick poems out of your gut. Lean into quotes and mantras. Remember, you can love those who go into the valley of darkness and not go with them. Keep it simple. Repeat the serenity prayer. Drink water, cry, hug someone, even the dogs. Call a friend. Get a grief therapist, preferably one that takes your insurance. Go to a movie, hopefully a comedy. Laugh, dance, sink into the eye of the storm. Trust your gut. Say fuck a lot. Walk, fly, crawl to every house owned by a sackler. Stand in the front yard and flip your middle finger, both hands. Pedal and pedal and pedal your bike. Block phone numbers of those who provoke you. Look up at the sky. Place your hand on heart. Feel its drumbeat. Oh, soft companion, wise compass. Go to a 12-step meeting. Get a 12-step sponsor, preferably one who went to Harvard and followed the Grateful Dead. Notice how much you want to eat dessert. Eat dessert. Feel fried and forget what day it is. Say bless you to every addict holding a sign on a street corner. Give them the peace sign. Repeat all or any of the above as many times as you want to. Pat yourself on the back. You're still here. Okay. So now there'll be a few poems about different people, people who brought me light, and then we'll finish with the end of the lawsuit. And struggle. This is a struggle one, but still light. This is about my daughter. It's called Fries, Food, and Drug, and it's an abecedarian, which is one of my favorite, like hang the words on a farm poem. At the grocery store, my daughter is bent slightly forward, burnt crispy from the sun. She doesn't hide her teeth this time. Arms encircled in bracelets, fingers in rings. From some kid, her answer to my, "Where'd you get all the jewelry?" A khaki backpack hangs from her shoulders as she shuffles in on blistered feet. Grabs a cart. I am just showered, wear lipstick, clean jeans, double knotted Keens, purple peace sign t-shirt. She limps along in black Nike canoes, man-sized on her petite feet. Shoppers and store clerks notice her, stare. I wonder if she'll be kicked out by management or security protecting their doors, like I've seen at QT, Circle K, Walmart, uniformed guards refusing entry to unshowered street people, blocking the moneyless theft risks. And so I shadow her like a maternal umbrella, wield a Visa card, meet their cold glares with vehement warmth, deflect their gawk with my jaw-set smile, direct gaze. Don't you dare judge her, I say with my posture. If you unzip her exterior, she will fill this whole store with light. Okay. So this one, actually, this is a little piece of a big old long rant that I wrote one day. And then this was the keeper part. After a long, dark night of grief. So here it is. After a long, dark night of grief, get out of bed, step over the sleeping dogs, open all the shutters, go outside and look at the sky. Watch the fiery fried egg rise from the horizon under gray puffball clouds that suddenly turn pink like an ocean of cotton candy. And you remember the young woman at Tuesday's Buddhist 12-step meeting who said something about a pink cloud moment. And you realize that this is a pink cloud moment as a ring of birds starts circling and circling above the palm trees as if they are dancing. Okay, so the next one I'm going to read is not in the book, but I thought it was the most fitting. I wanted to write about this person that I met has brought me a lot of light. And there's poems in the book about him, but I just didn't think talking about a 6-second kiss was appropriate for this reading. So I am instead, but I recommend it, Kiss and the poem. So anyway, so this one is called Cracked. Well, I just wrote this about a week or two ago, and it's actually going to appear next week in One Art. So this one's called Cracked. Near the end of the lawsuit, I fell for him when I hated every lawyer, even my own. Christopher, public defender, who doesn't believe in God or religion or astrology or fate, but collects Buddha heads, prayer beads, lived in a commune in his 20s, reads Rumi. Mary Oliver, loves Sexton, stuck a magnetic peace sign on the bumper of my car, memorized all the words to Hallelujah, crooned them to me over dinner, believes in justice. How could you stand it, that toxic legal wrestling pit? Gentle smile, says everyone deserves representation. Case after case, decades of finesse, respect, cracked the enamel on his back teeth while he slept. I said, do you see the connection? Anyway, okay. So, and then this one is a Molly. If you know me, you know Molly. That's my granddaughter who, since she was 3, I've been watching her a couple days a week, and she's like a, bright, bright light. So this one was just written in December about her. It's called View from Behind Plexiglass at Arizona Ice Peoria. And it's also it was started as an abecedarian, but I changed it. Okay. At the ice rink, teen boys smell of aftershave, crush on co-eds, converse in surfer dude lingo, while I double knot size 1 skates so she can enter the throng of those who flow counterclockwise, some fast, some faltering, some giggling in midriff tops or bundled in overcoats, scarves, hats, all careening across an arena-sized sheet of ice. It's the last Friday of December, and just about everyone and their kin have come to conga line to the end of the year. With me and 9-year-old Molly, who was so excited the night before, she painted powder blue polish on her fingernails to match her new velour sweatpants and shirt. And there she sails, the frozen quadrangle, gliding, sliding, red-cheeked. She's the tiniest one out there, teetering alone, under the spell of verve, never a victim, this one, who I watch fall and get back up, fall and get back up, X number of times, still smiling. Has it been a whole year since she's seen her mom? A big dark hole for all concerned. But today, there's zeal. A little girl in a pink scarf, knit cap, warmed by this moment on the ice. Okay. And this one I had to I had to include a poem about my dogs because I love my dogs. So I have 3 dogs. I only had I had 1 dog, and then these 2 dogs showed up on my porch in July of 2022. And I could never find their owners, no matter how, and I couldn't find anyone to adopt them. And I are, so they live with me and I adore them. So here it is. A Blessing on the Dogs. And this is after Annie Finch, one of Annie Finch's poems. Curious dirt sniffers, rhythmic tail thumpers, kibble gobblers, milk bone snatchers and face lickers, barkers at Amazon trucks, prolific fur shedders, you who plop on the dog bed next to your sister, bumping her backside, jolting her from a dream, she who wakes eyeballing you, then simply scooches over and returns to sleep. May we learn tolerance for packmates from you, eternally in the now, thrilled at every urine-stained post, every bug, weed, pile of another dog's dung. Okay. So let's see. We have 3 more. We're back to the, well, we will get back to the lawsuit. So this one is called Exiting and Entering, and it's part of a quadrilleur. Which is a 5-sectioned poem, but I picked through the 3 sections that I think go with this book. So they're little sections of prose, 3 sections of prose in this one. 1, the lawsuit is over. Pick up your grief journals from the lawyer's office. Stop to hike North Mountain. Drink in long-legged jackrabbits, laughing quails, sorrows, mountain bikers, lone walkers, and then no one. Where's the trail back to the visitor center? Phone has no signal. Sky is empty except for the gauzy ghost of last night's moon. I had to hike out and take an Uber home because I got lost. Anyway. Okay, 2. Go west on Northern to drive your granddaughter home to her dad's. Go past horses, strip malls, palm trees, overgrown into cousin its. Out of the blue, she starts singing Closing Time by Semisonic. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. I have no idea where she learned it. She has perfect pitch, which she did not inherit from me. And then the 3rd one. The cop who shot my son is at my front door saying he's sorry. Everything is dark, as if in shadow. I say, don't apologize to me, apologize to Adam. So he walks down the hall and Adam opens a door. And in other dreams, Adam is ethereal, but this time he is crying and the cop is crying and they lean toward each other and merge. I jolt awake. True story. So, okay. So then 2 more. This one is actually a found sonnet called Aftermath. And I was interviewed by KJZZ host named Tom Maxedon. So anyway, so after the interview, I put it together into a little found sonnet. So here we go, not rhyming. So this is the end. What happened? Officer Lindo shot my son in the back of his head, blew everything apart. In the face of powerlessness, we should say his name, Adam Vespoli. Phoenix Police Department Disciplinary Review Board. Cop was found out of policy, immediately resigned. Freedom of Information Act, aftermath, coping with grief, a molten slosh of pain, healing thoughts and hearts. My son, a big believer. My mission, words in mouth, to be his voice. Lawsuit resolved. Financial settlement. The policeman is no longer a policeman. He is driving a truck in Texas. So, and 1 more. And this was written about a year ago. Because I can tell by my plants, because they're doing what I talked about in this poem. So this one's called Picking Up the Settlement Check from my son's wrongful death case during the eclipse. Yeah, it had to happen on the eclipse, right? I mean, okay, so here we go. My dead son was in the car with me as I drove to the lawyer's office to pick up my net settlement check. And we drove past a laughing Buddha Chihuahua running against traffic down the center of Dunlap. And we drove through a split of mountain crags. And we drove past a guy twirling and tossing a red arrow sign at an intersection. And my heart and gut felt on fire with raw grief. And I said, well, here we are, Adam, meaning the end of the lawsuit. And even as I wanted to sob and flail, I could feel him smiling beside me, saying, there, like a benevolent cloud. When the paralegal handed me the check, she beamed as if we should don party hats, throw confetti, and I wanted to pop every balloon in the place, wave the rectangular piece of paper in the air and say, this represents my son's life. Outside, humans were wearing tiny plastic glasses and looking up at the sun and the sky over the parking lot, and over the parking lot glowed fluorescent. And this check felt like me saying it was okay. The cop shot my son. But I have fallen into a sort of love with a man who is ironically a lawyer, who has helped me interpret the mind fuck of the legal system. Understand that money the city of Phoenix had to pay caused them pain to spark change. And it is springtime on the planet where my son's physical body is only a memory. And there's a throng of 5-foot-tall sunflowers standing outside my bedroom window. And the ocotillo in my front yard, mere sticks and thorns a month ago, is now covered with soft green and topped with flame-colored flowers the wind flutters into candles on a cake. That's the end. Thank you for listening. Turn it back over to Sean.
Thank you, Susan. Do you want to do a prompted writing session now, or do you want?
Sure, we could do so. So here's an idea. So I hope you all have like a notebook or something to write on close by. What I wanted to share with you, it's the way I write a lot in my own classes that I teach, or classes like I use in classes I take, is kind of a wild writing method. Which is kind of like wild mind writing. You write from a prompt, you set a timer, you just go with whatever the prompts are. And without questioning, you turn off the internal editor and you just like flow, right. Don't let yourself, that's the rule. You can't judge yourself or you can watch yourself judge yourself. And you can't stop writing. You just keep writing. And then at the end, you have this little stuff you sometimes you have nothing. It's just, but sometimes, a lot of times you have like insights and you clean yourself out. I always think of it's like a chiropractic adjustment. No matter what happens, you get, you don't even know that stuff was in there. So, you can use it. So I use poems, and I'm going to just today, magically a poem. I was thinking I'll figure out the poem, but today into my inbox dropped the perfect poem that I'm going to use to tell you this. But there's other ways to do it. I mean, you could do it yourself, anything. There's somebody on the screen that I really adore named Maya Stein. She has one that's called Just Right Here, Right Now. You show up and you just pretend, well, we do it longer, but it's just like right here, right now. You just keep returning to that. And then you just are present with what's there, or you let whatever come out. But so I thought we would do like a 5-minute write. And I'm going to read you this poem just to give you a demonstration on how we do it. And then we're not going to have time to read in this forum, but Shauna at the end is going to share a way to if you choose, you could just do it for yourself to see what it feels like. And then we're going to have a Q&A. But anyway, I just wanted you to see what this was like. So I hope you have some kind of a writing utensil nearby. But the poem is that we're going to use, and where I got it today, there's a newsletter, a daily newsletter called Poetry Town that George Bilger puts out. And if you haven't signed up for that, you must, because it's such a good one. And then he posts the poem a day, and then he has a little why I chose this poem. So I'm going to read you the poem and the why I chose, and then I'll give you some prompts for that, and then we'll write for 5 minutes. So it's a classic Ellen Bass poem, The Thing Is, and which I think goes with my book. So, okay, to love life, to love it even when you have no stomach for it, and everything you've held dear crumbles like burnt paper in your hands, your throat filled with the silt of it. When grief sits with you, its tropical heat thickening the air, heavy as water, more fit for gills than lungs. When grief weighs you down like your own flesh, only more of it, an obesity of grief. You think, how can a body withstand this? Then you hold life like a face between your palms, a plain face, no charming smile, no violet eyes, and you say, yes, I will take you. I will love you again. And here's George Bilger's comment about why he chose the poem. He said, I remember after enduring a long, bleak period of terrible grieving, waking up one spring morning to the sound of a cardinal singing outside my window and thinking, life, I'm back, and you're more beautiful than ever. So here, I'm going to give you 3 prompts that you could try, and then I'll set the timer and give you a warning, 1-minute warning. And then we'll stop and we'll do the Q&A. So here are your prompts. One is, the thing is. The thing is. Another one, when grief sits with you. When grief sits with you. And then the last one I'm actually going to take from George's why I chose this poem, because I like it. It's I'm back. I'm back. Okay, so we'll write for 5 minutes. I'll give you a 1-minute warning. Mhm. About one more minute. Okay, you want to finish up your last line? Okay, I saw one that was fun from Lissa, so I'm good. I hope that was fun for you, and thank you for giving it a shot. And so I'll turn it back over to Sean.
Thank you so much, Susan. I loved that reading and I loved that prompt. I mean, I love Ellen Bass, so like, good choice of poem. And I love your work in general. It was lovely to hear you. I don't think I've actually heard you read it before, so that was a really nice experience. I'm always startled by the directness of your work, and the word that comes to mind again and again is unadorned. And I don't mean that, and I mean that in a good way. Like, there's no hiding behind metaphor or there's just the sort of stark light of how things are in your work, and sometimes it's hilarious, and sometimes it's deeply awful, and all the times it's incredible. So, it was really, really lovely to hear your work, and I'm glad that we could make this happen. And there's a lot of love for you in the chat too, so I hope that you have read it. Um, we are going to turn the last 19 minutes of this call over to a Q&A. If you don't mind being recorded on this call, feel free to use the raise hand feature in Zoom, and I'll call on your name. If you don't want to be recorded, feel free to put your question in the Zoom chat, and I'll read it for you. And while you folks are thinking of some questions to ask Susan, I want to promote a couple of things. First is I'm going to put some things in the chat. I'm going to put a link to Susan's book, Therefore Illuminated, which is out with Kelsay Books. Susan also has two upcoming courses with us. One of them is called From Writing Circle to Poems in Six Contemporary Forms. There's one seat left, so get it while it's still there. And then she has a June course called Simple Summer Saturday Writing Circles. So the prompt that we just did with Susan, that's what her classes are like. I took one a couple years ago and it was great. If you got something out of this call, I encourage you to take a class with her now or in the future. And then I'm also including a link to Susan's website. So if you want to read her other work or buy her other books, please give her all that love. And then I'm also going to mention we recently launched a community at writers.com, a community space. And so we do a couple of writing sessions that are free for all people to attend. We have a Monday writing session and a Friday writing session. Both are prompted, both happen from 11 to 12:30 Eastern, 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. So I'm going to include Zoom links to both of those calls in the chat as well. We'd love to see you there. They're more prompted running sessions, and there are opportunities for you to share your work as well. And then also we have a community space. And so I'm putting in the chat a link to a 7-day free trial of that space. And so you can share your work. So if, for example, you wrote something you really like and you want to share, please join the community and share in that space. We'd love to read it. And including, in addition to the Monday and Friday calls, we also have craft exploration workshops and opportunities to workshop your writing with one another and just ways to build community with other writers around the world. So that is the end of the self-promotion. I know it's annoying. I appreciate you sticking with it. If and I, I'd love to see you either in Susan's class or in our community. Um, Let's turn the call over to questions for Susan about her work, about her writing, anything that's top of mind for you all. Again, please use the raise hand feature if you want to share your question verbally, or please put it in the chat and I will read it for you. While I give people time to think of a question, I am curious to know, Susan, about, I mean, I know that you write every day and that's been like a part of your writing process, but I am curious to know what goes through your mind when you're writing? Like, do you always have your editor turned off? Like I said, you have a way of sort of presenting reality in a very sort of stark, direct way, and I'm curious to know how you're able to bring that about on the page or in the voice.
I try to have my editor turned off.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely try when I'm just trying to, I journal every morning. I do the morning pages. Sometimes different times of day, but I try to do it every day. And if I don't, I notice, I feel off a little bit. So it's that 3 pages. You don't even have to read it. It can be anything.
Mm,
Um, I when I write a poem, so that's just kind of like getting it all out. But then with a poem, a lot of times I'll just go back and there's something that appeared that I'll go back and revisit, and I'll try to sometimes put it on a the editing brain that's there is like if I use forms, because that helps me just get out of my own way too, and just hang it on the form without getting to analyzing. I'm not good. I don't like analyzing stuff very much. So I just try to stay in an altered head state most of the time when I write. Does that answer your question?
yeah, I think it does. I mean, I understand like that form is sort of a way for you to sort of hang the words onto the poem in a more meaningful way without having your editor kind of like take control and be like, oh, this is all garbage. Because I know like we all kind of have the editor telling us that.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a feng shui thing too, where it's like, no, that it needs to end on this and that needs to end on this. And then you go through and I guess it is editing when you're actually putting it into a poem. Like, do you want it to be one long, you know, piece, or do you want to divide it into stanzas or something? So that's kind of, but it's not my logical head. It's some other head, it's like a comes through kind of thing. So.
Yeah. Nin asked a question about that just now. What do you mean by hanging words on a form?
So if it's like, for instance, one of my favorite ones is the abecedarian. So that's, what I do, if I try different things, but one of the ones that work for me often is the abecedarian, where I just use a piece of notebook paper and I write, A to Z on the one side. And I've written something, but in order to form it into something, I will just start writing it where you have to begin each line, with A and B and C. And it just helps me think of different words to use, and also just helps me kind of organize it. And it also kind of makes it concise because you have that much space, if that makes sense. So, or sometimes I'll do something like, it must be, like 11 syllables with 10, that way just it makes me, kind of craft it into something like that. So.
Maya Stein asks, how does the experience reading out loud and sharing your work affect your relationship with the writing itself?
Um, Often it's a surprise to me. I don't like, well, who wrote that? I mean, I guess it's like, it is. It's kind of like even writing that today, I haven't read a lot of that stuff and it kind of brought me back to it all. So, yeah, I mean, it feels like it comes kind of through. So I'm happy to share the story, to say it. But it feels like a surprise. That's what it feels like when I read.
Hmm. Susan Lynn asks, do your poems ever emerge out of your 3 pages?
A lot, yes. They do. A lot out of the morning pages, a lot out of my, the wild writes that I either do in this class or the wild writing classes. So yeah, I mean, I'd say 95%, at least the fodder, the rough fodder comes from that. If I didn't do that, I don't know where my poems would come from. So
Brandy Shaw wants to know what is the name for the 5-section form that you mentioned earlier?
the 5-section form. Oh, Cadrelor, which I learned from
Cadrelor.
Tina, who's in here, Tina Berry, who's another writers.com teacher. I learned that form from her in her class.
I've learned forms from both you and from Tina. Like you, I think Susan introduced me to the Gigan,
Oh, yes.
Gigan.
Yeah.
I'd
I
never
love,
heard of that before. It's funny what people are inventing.
yeah, I love that one too.
Um, Tina Williams asks, what does revising look like for you?
Um, so I'll write something and then I kind of work with it a little while and I'm kind of in a different mindset. So maybe, whoops, 2 hours went by and I missed something I was supposed to go to, something like that. Or maybe it's, and then I usually just like sleep on it and then I wake up and look at it again. And then I bring it to different groups or a class or whatever, but I don't have a lot of patience for revising. So it's like if it doesn't just kind of come together pretty quickly, I just throw it away or it's just somewhere on my computer. So that's what I don't spend a ton of time revising. It sort of has to just be there. I'm not somebody who, I know that Ellen Bass like has all these notebooks and comes back. It's just like that just makes me want to like run away to even hear about that. So if that makes sense, I'm not a very good reviser. So.
Donna Lucas says, I've studied Julia Cameron's work since 2020. Love morning pages. Is this the start of your creative process and then hang a form? What do you deep read or choose to study post MFA?
Um, I think, yeah, I first read the Julia Cameron Artist's Way, I don't know how many years ago, like um, back when began my midlife crisis that landed me where I am now, which was like 20 years ago or something. But and so the morning pages and all her freedom and all that kind of stuff. So yes, the methods I use are very similar to that. And also the Wild Mind, Natalie Goldberg work. And so there was that. And then what was I can't remember what the second part of that
What do
question.
you deep read or choose to study post MFA?
So I did my MF, and I discovered poetry, like as a shock. And actually the teacher is in this class, is in this screen too, Johnny May. When I first, I had cancer, I left a marriage, I started trying meditation and just read basically creative writing, and we did every genre. And then we decided we were going to study poetry, and I was like, I never liked poetry much, but it was like, no, I like this poetry. So it was like Dorian Locks and Ellen Bass and all these kinds of things. So then I just became totally sold on that. And so I did the MFA because I sold a school. I wanted to, I was just crazy chasing that poetry stuff. And so now I think what helps me is I just take classes constantly. It's like even though I'm a poor poet, I'm basically living on Social Security and little classes. I'm taking classes because it's like sanity. So that's my main. And I have stacks of books everywhere. And it's also like books, books, books. Just whatever I discover, I want their book and I want to read the whole thing. So that makes sense. Yeah, I vote for classes where you have deadlines. I mean, for me, that helps. So, and you have feedback and you build a community. So.
Andrea Gordon asks, do you do revision on the formatting, like the spacing between lines?
Yes, I do. I do it till it feels like it's sort of like rearranging your living room where the couch looks better here. That's it. You just kind of move it around, go, yep, that's it. And then you live with it. So, or, I usually do it for, like I said, like an overnight. Or if I'm in a class, I'll take all the into consideration what everybody says, and some fits and some doesn't. And then I just leave it alone. So, does that make sense? Does that answer your question, Andrea? Okay.
On that topic, Tina Berry said in the chat, your poems don't need much editing, and I'm sure that that is true. I'm curious if your work changes a lot from when you first draft it, to when you like sculpted something a bit more final. Or do you find that it's typically like when you first written it that like you've got the majority of what you want there?
It's like usually once I get it, like I find the thread, it doesn't change all that much.
Mhm.
It's like some, but not much. but there is a thing of trying to get into it. Like I'll try this, or I'll try this, or I'll try this, and then it's like, oh, there it is, and then it falls out, kind
Totally.
of. So if that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. Who else has questions for Susan? Have I missed any hands? Have I not seen any hands? If I did, just unmute yourself and ask a question.
Thank you. I see the little chats popping up. It's hard to, I'm not a good multitasker, so I'll have to read them.
Um, well, while in case, oh, Miriam Washington asks, how does writing change your view of your experiences?
Oh, it is just changes it a lot. I mean, it's just like if I write it, I understand a lot more. So much insight. It's not just for poetry. It's about for figuring things out. It's like, oh, that's why. And you start, and when you put together a collection, you see these patterns that you didn't, for me, that I didn't notice before. But then you start saying, oh, you know, I say gut a lot. I say fuck a lot. I say, light a lot or whatever. So, but yeah, no insight. It's like, it's been sanity saving, trying to clarify. So, I think I also, as part of my journaling, daily journaling, I do the spill it. And then I also do this practice of write some gratitudes, and then I also do some what I did right, which I heard way back at a conference from when I was a Montessori teacher, but it's like she said, everybody can figure out what they did wrong, but how hard is it to find out what you did right? So I incorporated years ago into my journaling. So it's like, and it's not as easy to figure it out, like, oh, I washed the coffee pot, but it's also a practice if you start noticing. And then anyway, and then another one was what self-care are you going to do today? So I added those to my journaling. So just as a extra thing. It's helped. So for sanity.
Donna Lucas asks, is there a recommended poetry forum to join?
A poetry forum or
Forum. Forum, yeah.
forum. I mean, I say take all the poetry classes. Take Tina Berry's class, take, I mean, the writers.com, read the newsletter that, you find a different teacher that, that you resonate with. I think that's what the trick is. Try things because some instantly, I can write and some it doesn't, we don't align. It's kind of like going on dates, you go on, you click or you don't click, but the ones that click, I think those are for me, that's the way you build community. Most of the people I know and that have helped me survive, like all kinds of, and, and through right now in the country and my stuff in my life has been the writing community I have met in classes. It's like I've met in classes. That's mostly where I know people from. So.
Totally. Susan, just so you know, your connection is a little spotty, so if you cut out suddenly, just
Okay.
just
That,
warning you, but I can hear you now.
that, that would figure.
What are you working on these days? Do you have any collections in progress or?
I don't have a collection progress. I'm trying to write. I wanted to write lighter stuff. I just finished Tina Berry's class on food, which was really fun to write, just seeing it through the lens of food. So I don't have it's like I wanted to write these to get them out of me and so that I could heal, from some of the trauma of my son's death, etc. I just want to just write for fun, do art, and you just, I think it's like you follow the poetry, I don't know what it'll turn into, but I just want to write things that are cool. I'm not driven to like bring down the city of Phoenix and, I kind of am still, but I mean, not to write about that. So.
Yeah, it's hard to lose that thread of like just have fun, just play with language when you
Yeah,
are
that's what
doing
I
it.
want to do right now. So
Cheryl Triber Karaoke asks, I know you are doing visual art collages. Does that impact your writing?
it's so fun. I will say, yeah, that's what I actually started doing some collages back when I took a Maya Stein, whose class, her advice was to seek inspiration from the sky or what was on the ground. And I always looked up, but I never looked down. So I started doing collages with trash, and I ended up loving it so much that I ended up doing it for a whole year, not just a 100-day project. I did it for a 365-day. And then that made me not want to stop doing collages. And I'm still having, so yeah, I think it's where you step out of your logical brain and you're just playing. And for me, you're just playing, you're just playing. I've had people say like, well, what does that mean? It's like, I don't know. I just like the way it looks. So yeah, I think it just exercises your creative juice or something. So yeah, I say they go hand in hand.
Mm.
I know Cheryl's an artist, so you get that.
We have 1 minute left on the Zoom call. Anybody have a final burning question they need Susan to answer? Or Susan, do you have any sort of final things you want to send us off with?
I'm just grateful to see all your faces and, grateful for Writers Cup. Oh my goodness. I just dropped my computer. Hold on. How's that for a grand finale?
That's a great grand finale.
But it's still alive. Anyway, no, I mean, I'm grateful. And Sean, this person has helped me, he's like the biggest supportive person, one of my favorites at writers.com. So
I'm just an email jockey.
well, whatever. You're good at it. So
Well, thank you so much, Susan. This was
yeah, thank
lovely.
you.
Always great to engage with your work. Everyone, please buy Susan's book, take her classes. She's amazing. Would love to see you in our community too. And thank you for spending your Wednesday night with poetry.
Thank you, all of you.
Have a good
Bye.
night, everyone.